Hey, what's up, y'all? Back with more sneaker education in the form of insider ties, and we're jumping into this episode. That was like the worst introduction ever. I apologize. But we're jumping into this episode with something I typically don't cover. Now, I don't really get into the community aspect of the sneaker side of things because it tends to deal with a lot of the hype around sneakers, and I kind of avoid that. I don't get into those conversations. I leave it alone. But SoleSavy is a community, and it's one of those websites where, and it's not the same as you have Trade Block, which is a community-based sneaker website. You have SoleSavy. Gosh, there's so many of them that are just kind of popping up because everybody's seen what's happened with StockX and the $3.8 billion valuation that the company has, and now they're getting ready to go public, and they hooked up with Morgan Stanley to start looking into that process of going public. But there's a lot of information that just happened today, and to get into it, I'm going to have to jump around a lot, and this is going to feel very disjointed. So I apologize for how disjointed it's going to be, but by the end of it, it will make sense. I promise you. All right, so just stay with me and let's get into it. So SoleSavy, right? The community platform that basically helps you to get sneakers at retail. I don't know how effective they are at that. I'm not sure if they are effective at all. You guys probably know better than I do, but they're going to launch their own shoe and NFT, which obviously I'm not big on the NFT aspect of anything because of the amount of energy that it takes to mint and mine the coins that are used to pay for NFTs, but that's neither here or there. It's the physical product that SoleSavy is producing, and they're producing it with Jimmy Wong, right, who used to be a Jordan brand. The fact that SoleSavy, which was created in 2018, is shifting into private label so quickly tells me that they're paying attention to something that a lot of people aren't paying attention to, and that is what I've talked about recently a lot, and the fact that sneaker resale is slowing down considerably. The only people who are consistently getting sneakers like that are people that have bots, and now the bots are being sold over and over again so many times that a lot of these numbers around sneaker resale are not what they used to be. And I did an article on that. You can go and look at a couple of videos back and you'll see the eBay discussion, StockX discussion. But the introduction of private label, when I wrote my book on Nike's consumer direct offense, I talked about retailers building private label to offset the fact that Nike is going direct to consumer. I didn't get into the fact that Adidas was going direct to consumer, but this is very important, all right? You have to think about how you're going to generate income. So if SoleSavy is a subscription-based site and they've raised funds built on subscriptions, when subscriptions decrease, where do you generate money? If your goal isn't to resell sneakers, where are you going to generate income? Well, going into private label is a fantastic way of doing that. And if you watch this video, I'm going to go back and restart it.
February 21st, 2022.
And they start talking. I'm going to turn that down because I don't want that to give me some type of copyright infringement. But you see this video, and I'm going to put the link to this page on SoleSavy in the description so you can go to and check it out. They get into a conversation and they talk immediately about, how they're going to do this for the community. Well, the reality is, if they can pull this off and do this in the right way, they now have a product. It's not just about trying to rack up on membership benefits through the website. With a physical product that they could possibly produce every month, income shifts and they're able to generate revenue. Think about that. All right, now, why am I bringing this up and why do I have so many tabs opened up? You can't see my mouse moving, but why do I have so many tabs opened up across the top of this screen? Well, the first tab I have opened up is somewhere in America. Sia Collective, Asaya Collective. These guys, this one guy, this guy's a designer. He creates all of these different shoes you see flashing across the screen. Does an incredible job. He has memberships where people get first access, but now he's beginning to list the shoes on the page because a lot of the shoes may not be selling or they don't fit. And what people don't realize and what SoleSavy may not understand what they're getting into is that when you sell items, you get returns. So when you begin to get returns, you're going to have to move those sneakers somewhere. So even Saya Collective, as good a business as he's getting returns. He's going to have to sell these shoes somewhere. But I bring up Saya Collective for one reason. It's an independent sneaker company. So you have this independent sneaker company that launched, right? Now, I'm going to go to this next page, which is Sun Ra. Sun Ra is Hikmet Segor, who's over in Germany, who did all of these collabs with the different brands. And then he created Sun Ra, where he has the Proto, this shoe. So I'm scrolling down so you can see the latest shoe that he's making. Private label, shifting into the creation of your own product, empowers your company to create revenue without relying on Nike sneakers or resale or any of these other things, or depending so heavily on membership revenue. All right, so I know this conversation has shifted, but it's going to shift even more. So once again, just stay with me and let's keep going. So you have Hikmet with Sun Ra. You have Rock Deep, which I didn't open up the page on. I should open up the page and search for Rock Deep and see what they're doing. And Rock Deep is also an independently owned brand. Now they have a model that's they tend to take sneakers that are created in China, and then they bring them over and put their own branding on them. So they have a lot of different styles on the website. But Rock Deep is another company that's growing considerably as an independent brand, because Nike has created a situation where it's so difficult to get their shoes. Designers, brands, sneaker communities are realizing that people are willing to take a chance on something that they haven't heard of, and that you can actually sell a shoe. Now, I was way ahead of the curve. Of course, you guys know, if you follow this website, that I had my own brand, Arch. But I was way ahead of the curve, man. There was no Instagram to kind of blow up what you're doing. It was a much harder process. It's very difficult, but today it's a lot easier, but you're still going to have to deal with the returns. So what is happening are websites are beginning to recognize that they need something to create revenue. Now, I said website, so SoleSavy is a website. Why do I bring up websites? I'm going to the next link here, and this is Racked. Hypebeast IPO'd back in 2016, initial public offering on the stock market, but they IPO'd in China on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So if you were in America, you couldn't buy shares of Hypebeast. I've written about this on the site. I've talked about it on YouTube. Hopefully you guys know what I'm saying, because this was also announced today. Hypebeast in a public, basically to go public via merger with Iron Spark I. Iron Spark I is a SPAC. Okay, a SPAC is offered on the United States Stock Exchange, or the Nasdaq. You can actually buy shares into this SPAC, Iron Spark I. They are going to do 180 million, I think it is. Let me see. They're going to make available shares of Hypebeast on Nasdaq. So now, if you're a fan of Hypebeast, you need to think about the fact that Hypebeast was a blog. Just like my site is a blog, Hypebeast was a sneaker blog, which is crazy to think about that it was IPO'd in China. But Hypebeast also created HBX, their e-commerce. They have a booming e-commerce. Well, I don't know if it's booming. I can't say. I'm not sure, because it's IPO'd in Hong Kong. So you don't really get to see their public information. But this SPAC is going to allow us a chance. If you buy a share, you'll be able to look behind the curtain of what's happening with Hypebeast. But this is what's interesting. You probably never thought about the fact that Hypebeast could IPO in the US, and the projected amount of money that Hypebeast is going to generate from the IPO with the SPAC with Iron Spark I? I think it's $180 million is what it's expected to be generated with this merger of Hypebeast becoming publicly traded on Nasdaq. All right. I know it's hard. I wish it was live, and I should start going live and doing this, because then you can ask questions and it's much easier for me to get my thoughts out. without kind of stumbling across this, but I hope everything's clear by the time we get to the end of it. So, Hypebeast, a blog, $8.5 million investment. Complex, right? BuzzFeed, and this is really interesting because BuzzFeed acquired Complex last year. I think it was completed this year. Once it was completed, BuzzFeed is actually going to start cutting jobs at Complex. So let's read this. But it expects revenue to drop the current quarter if it includes the acquisition of Complex Networks. The layoff separate from the news division will come from BuzzFeed Video and the editorial side of Complex. So Complex, which was acquired last year and then it was completed this year, is going to be a part of the layoffs for BuzzFeed. But what I'm trying to get at is this. These blogs IPO'd. And not IPO, but Hypebeast IPO'd in China. And now they're preparing to do work with a SPAC to release shares on Nasdaq in the US. So you're going to be able to buy shares of Hypebeast. Hypebeast invested into $8.5 million by Felix Capital. And Felix Capital also did gold, I think. I have to look it up. Don't quote me on that. BuzzFeed acquired Complex, and I think it was like a $300 million acquisition, $280 million in cash trust. Crazy. Via SPAC also. So now I flip over and I go to StockX. I started this by talking about the fact that SoleSavy was smart enough to do a sneaker drop, making their own shoe. StockX has not made their own private label, but what they have done is created their own kind of independent releases that aren't attached to resale. DropX is one of the models where StockX is able to take a brand's product and they release it only on DropX for a limited amount of time. It's kind of like Greenhouse or Network, which Network is owned by Foot Locker. So there's a lot that's going on in the sneaker world, and if you're not paying attention, you can't keep up with it. But StockX has DropX and StockX has IPOs. Now, those two programs for StockX generates revenue independent of me having to take something and sell it on StockX. So if StockX can ramp up the amount of DropX events and IPOs, they don't need as many sellers. So where you have eBay that relies solely on sellers, StockX has these programs in place where they're able to buffer the decline in revenue from a decreased amount of resellers. Man, this is getting complex, isn't it? So we do that, we look at that, and we go back to the beginning. And this is what I want to summarize, and I'm going to end it because I know this is a lot. I don't want to burn anybody's brains, which I don't think I am. The guys that follow this page, you guys tend to be pretty smart. In many instances, you know more than I do. So I won't even go there. But SoleSavy introducing their own sneaker is akin to somewhere in America having their own brand and selling these shoes in pretty good quantities. It's a fantastic revenue generator, and it puts them on the same page as Sun Ra and Hikmet Tagore, who has the Sun Ra Proto, which sells well in very limited quantities, and it's a revenue generator. Now, in the video, when you get down to the end of this video, which is on YouTube, the founder of SoleSavy is like, now people will know that everybody can make their own shoe. Well, this is the problem in some instances, is when everybody can do it, it's no longer prestigious. So we have to be very careful with the idea that everybody can do it. It's not as easy as it seems. They're walking into a field that has mines placed in certain areas. Now they have a couple of people on the team that's helping them to create the shoe who are basically veterans. That's going to help to offset a lot of the issues with potential returns. But we have to be careful walking into this. It's more complex than it seems, but it's a very good revenue generator for companies who have launched built on the foundation of Nike. Somewhere in America started with shoes that look like a Dunk and a Jordan 1. and then they shifted into their own designs. Hikmet started off doing collabs under Sneaker. I can't remember what the name of it is over in Germany, but they were huge for a long time. And then he left that and he was doing the collabs, and then he started doing his own shoe. Everybody kind of stems from this, hey, I'm going to take this Nike thing and recreate it. And then they go into their own products. But those individual products, Hypebeast, IPO'd, but they were capable of being revenue generating with HBX and e-commerce. Hypebeast took an $8.5 million investment, and Hypebeast has now launched their e-commerce. So if we go to Hypebeast, you have that shop button here now, and that shop button takes us to the Hypebeast store. See what I'm saying? Once they took that money and then the investment, they had to figure out how to generate revenue beyond simply having ads. So when you look at Hypebeast and you go back to the home page, you do still have ad revenue, but they are touting their shops all over the site now. Everything connects back to the shop because it's a revenue generator. All right, so it's a lot. I know that's a lot. I don't know what these whack emails, so much spam emails popping in. I wanted you guys to get a heads up on this and to be thinking about it because it's a very important moment. Now, SoleSavy doesn't look like it's a company that's just huge and everything is really important around it, but this is a very important play because you're going to see other companies mimic this, and they should, rightfully so, especially if they have big communities. That's it. Done. A lot of talking. Woo. See you guys on the next one. All right. I need to clarify and do a video simply on giveaways, but man, I'm behind. See you guys. Peace.